All right, it's looking like 2 p.m., so we can go ahead and get started here. Welcome all to our webinar on dispatching tips and tricks. My name is Nori Neinkirchen, and I'm joined here by Jack.
Hello.
We are the implementation specialists here at Smart Service, and we'll be conducting your webinar today. Let's go ahead and get started here with a few pieces of information you'll want. So first off, welcome to the webinar. If this is your first time joining the webinar, we do these on the first Thursday of every month, and you can sign up for free. To do so, visit us at smartservice.com/webinar. You can also view the previous webinars there. They're usually available about 24 hours after the live broadcast, so hopefully about this time tomorrow, I should have this up and available on that website for you. So if you need to run in the middle of the webinar or something like that, not a problem. We'll give you a recording that'll be available at that site sometime tomorrow. Secondly, if you have questions, we do want to hear from you. Due to the number of people that join these webinars, we're not going to let you talk over the air, but we will let you go ahead and write into the chat panel. You can see an example of the chat panel there on the right-hand side of the slide, but we will be answering those questions live during the broadcast. So if you got a question, feel free to send it in. We'll go ahead and take care of it for you. Lastly, suggestions. What do you want to cover next month? Let me know. You guys, when you leave the webinar, can look at our survey, and on the survey, it'll give you the option to say, hey, we want to talk about this or this next time. So that'll be a good option for you there if you want to see a particular topic. These are basically free training classes where we talk about a specific feature in Smart Service. So request any feature or workflow or process that you want us to discuss, and we'll go ahead and do that one if that's what everybody votes for. Also, did you know about our weekly QA webinars? We do these once a week on Wednesdays. This is something that Jack takes care of for us. But in there, you can actually talk directly to Jack over the phone. What's different is that those webinars can be about any topic. So you can come in there and ask a question about the scheduler, ask a question about invoicing, ask a question about iFleet, whatever you got. The webinars that we do monthly, like this one, are focus topics. So today we're going to be talking mostly about the scheduler. But in the QA webinars that happen every Wednesday, you can talk about whatever you want. Again, free training class, take advantage of it. Usually we charge for training classes, so this is a good opportunity. If you got some downtime in the day there, send your new employees here, or even your more seasoned employees so they can learn even more about Smart Service. If you want to join for those, go to smartservice.com/knowledge base. You can register for the next event. All right, moving on. What are we going to talk about today? Today's going to be all about the scheduler and tools that are available to dispatchers inside a Smart Service. We're going to cover the various features and functions for each item on the scheduler, as well as provide some context for how to use those features. Again, everybody's use of the scheduler will be a little bit different. You will assemble the pieces to the puzzle in your own way that's best for your company. What I'm going to look at today is going through, hey, here's what the buttons do, here's what their capabilities are. And then if you guys have questions about those capabilities or about how you can best use those capabilities, like I said, just write in a question. We'll go ahead and take care of it. But let's go ahead and get into Smart Service and take a look. All right, so now we are inside of Smart Service here, and we can go ahead and head over to the scheduler. You can just click on the little scheduler icon over here on the left. You can also open up the hamburger menu here and click on it from there. That's just to show you the label. It doesn't need to be open to do it. If I click on that, it's going to take me over to my scheduler here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the today button to get to the current date. Current date is highlighted in gold, as is the current time. Now, you're going to have different times in your scheduler. This is something you can customize in settings, which I'll be talking about in a moment. But let me get you some basic navigation of moving around the scheduler and picking out different days before we do all that. So over on the left-hand side, I've got a little calendar here that I can click on to see different days. You'll notice that it's changing the date that we're looking at up here at the top left. So right now we're on April 19th. If I hit the today button, it's going to take us over to today, March 2nd. So that's using the 1 day view. If you want to look at just like 2 days, let's say we want to move one of these jobs to another day, I can hold down the control key on my keyboard. So again, this is the control key on the keyboard. I'm holding it, and then I can click on any other date I want, let's say the 22nd, and then I'll release the control key. That's going to put those dates next to each other. So now I could drag and drop an appointment from one side to the next. So if I want to move this guy, I just single click on it to select it. It gets like a black outline around it. I just drag and drop that to where I want it to be. So that control click thing, you can hold down control and click on as many dates as you want. So if I want to do a few of them, if you have a number of people on your schedule board here, it will give you a scroll bar at the bottom so you can move around through the dates. If, let's say, we want to look at a period of time, we do have buttons up here. We got a 1, 5, 7, and 31 day view up here at the top under where it says March 2nd. So I click on like the 5-day view. Then that gives me all 5 days there. Looking at the week. Another way that you might use this tool, I'll go to today to do this. If you hold down the control key, or I'm sorry, the shift key, if you hold down the shift key and you click on another date, that highlights dates consecutively. So if I wanted to see through Monday, I'd hold down shift, click on Monday, and then you can see it just highlighted all the dates through to Monday there. But to make this even better for you, what you can do is go to the date that you want. So we'll go over to today. And then if I hold down shift and click on like a 2-week view, it'll highlight. And this is a good way to just get a basic, hey, what's going on for each day, because I can see the dates here. And it'll show you basically if the day is full or not. So this day here, Thursday, you saw that on the calendar is pretty full. The rest of my days, I've got some appointments going on. We can kind of see what everybody's got going on. With this, if you come up here to right next to the units box, there's little arrows. They're also blue, so they kind of blend in a little bit. But hitting this will let you scroll at a 2-week view. So I've got 3 weeks here, but you could do 2 weeks, you could do 1 week. And you can click this little button here and it'll just let you scroll kind of through the week. So you can check every 2 weeks and say, okay, this date here, the 9th looks pretty good. And then I'll go back to a 1-day view and I'll go over to the 9th and go ahead and schedule the customer there. So those are some little known things about the date functions there. Another few things like that, up here at the top, you've got the months, and you can click on another month to go to it. You've also got arrows next to these. The single arrow will move you forward or backward 1 month. The double arrow will move you forward or backward 1 year. So if I click on these a few times here, we're now at June 4th, 2025. And again, I can always hit the today button, get back to the current date. That pretty much wraps it up for navigating the different days itself. The other thing that gets missed sometimes is the department option here. So when you guys log into Smart Service for the first time ever, and some of you may still be using it, there's a route view here. Route view is great if we want to look at, let's say, one user. We'll take me. And we'll look at that same user for like 5 days. So there is my schedule in Smart Service currently. That's the whole week. But route view, again, is one person at a time. You might choose to click on this person in the red shirt and do a department view. A department view lets you select a group of individuals. When you create user profiles in Smart Service, you get to assign them to a particular department. You can only be in one department as a particular user, but that doesn't limit you as far as what you can get scheduled to me or what you can get scheduled to you. So like if I had technicians and sales here like I do, it doesn't mean I can't schedule an estimate to a technician. It's just a label. It's not going to change what the system will allow that person to do, but it does make it helpful when we say, hey, show me my techs. And it just gets the right people for me. Something you can do with that, if you do all, you get this little window here, and this will show everybody that you have in the company. You can uncheck the people that you don't want to see for the moment. You can also, at the very top, above the check boxes, there's a little hidden box here. You can check and uncheck all. But through here, I can come in and say, hey, show me the dispatcher, show me Jack, show me Jess, show me Mike. These people are all in different departments, but by hitting filter, I've made a customized view out of just those people. And then when I'm done, scheduling that special project that might need a project manager, a few techs, maybe an installer, then I can go back to my technician department and be set back to normal. The last option in there is assets. This is a good one for people that are doing any sort of rental equipment that you're going to be leaving with the customer. Our customers that are doing like portable toilets, for example, you're going to drop off the portable toilet where the customer specifies, and that portable toilet can only be at one house at a time or one job site at a time. You can have its own schedule in here. You'll still need to schedule a work order to get the portable toilet out there, But if it's added as an asset on a work order, you can view the asset schedule here, and that'll show you all of your vehicles or all of your portable toilets or whatever you rent out and where they're going to be used on a particular day. So if we have a job that's scheduled for 3 days and one of our assets is listed on that job, it does have its own schedule in here where you can kind of see, you know, if it's available that day or if it's going to be in use by another customer. So you have those options right there. Moving over to the right, we've got this units here. Units is going to let you decide how much each one of these blocks of time on the calendar is worth. Everybody does this kind of differently. I can go down to 10-minute units, and you see it's going to make my calendar real long, and I get a scroll bar for it. Or I can make my calendar hour-long units. So you can do that. I like the half-hour units, and I'll show you why. So when I'm looking at half-hour units, if I want to take, let's say, this appointment here, and I want this to overlap another appointment, I'm probably going to offset them by about half an hour, like so. It's kind of tough to do that when you're rounding up to the nearest hour because then everything's kind of in its own spot. But this is a good way when you have half hours or something like that, so you can set 2 jobs next to each other. Okay, we've got a few other options up there at the top that we'll go ahead and knock out here. We've got our color coding options. So I can go in here and I can pick what I want to color code by. Let's say we want to color code by city. Well, great, that's what I got selected. If I hit the color key on the right, which mine is already open, I'll go ahead and click it twice so you can see it close and open there on the right-hand side. That color key, what that does here is that shows you what each color on the calendar represents. So all of my work orders and estimates here have colors. If I want to see what those are, we can see those there. I will show you here in a moment how to adjust the coloring. That's something you can do in settings. If you want to change, you know, what color each city is, we have the option to do that. But there are a number of other color codings in here. Let's say that me and Jack are both smart service users. We're both in the same database. Jack does not have to have the same color coding scheme that I do. I can actually switch between these three or these ones all I want, and the 2 of us will never know what each other has. So he can do this completely independently. If Jack maybe likes to look at people by timestamp, which shows me if they're working on a job, what they're doing. You see I get some different colors there, and on the right I get indicated, you know, the guy's driving to this one, he's working on that one. I can see those different color codes, and Jack can pick out any of these that he wants. So you get options there for what you guys want to be looking at that are just for you. And then, like I said, the color key shows you what those are. You don't need it open all the time. Over time, you'll probably memorize, you know, certain colors and stuff like that. But you can go ahead and pick out whatever you want there. You've got next to that the refresh button. You can also hit F5 on the calendar there and it should refresh it. But we have a refresh interval in settings. My calendar is set up to check for any other things that have been scheduled every 60 seconds. So it'll automatically show me anything that Jack schedules on his computer. But if I want to refresh it right now, I can go ahead and hit that refresh button whenever I would like, just by clicking that button here. There is an option to print out the schedule as well. This is something that is going to print out basically a visual, like exactly what we're looking at here on the scheduler, and it does give you some options in there for how you want it to look. So like what times you want to do and stuff like that. If you're just trying to get the work orders, this is not the button for work orders. This is to literally print out the screen that we're looking at. I will show you how to print out a work order if you want to actually do that instead. But there is that option. And then we have this option here, which will send the current calendar to Outlook. If you have an Outlook account and it is set as a default on your computer, this will send the schedule view as it is currently to Outlook. So if you want to send more than today, in my case, I probably want to do like a 5, 7, or 31-day view. Now with Outlook, because of how they set up the integration that we can use for Outlook, when you do this, do be aware that you don't want to push that button multiple times. Each time that you click that button, it will create a new reminder in Outlook for each appointment, which is basically what it does. But if I click that 3 or 4 times for the same time period or in a row, then I'm going to end up with 3 or 4 reminders inside of Outlook. We have mostly phased out our integration with Outlook in favor of Google Calendar integration, which offers much better visibility offers visibility outside of the office, a number of other really cool features. With Outlook, it sends it, like I said, as a reminder, basically this stuff here that we're looking at. And if I move one of these appointments, that change does not go to Outlook. With Google Calendar, if I reschedule one of these appointments, it's going to reschedule it in Google automatically, and you don't have to hit any buttons to make it happen. So towards the end of the webinar, we'll be talking about Google Calendar integration. Heads up on that, it comes with iFleet. So if you already own iFleet, you don't have to buy anything else to get that, and we can reach out to the help desk and get it set up today. But it's a very good option for being able to see the schedule outside of Smart Service. So we'll get into that. Okay, so that is our top row of buttons there. The next thing that I'm going to run into is going to be the Smart Pane over here on the left. So there's a window where we have that mini calendar where I was selecting the dates, hitting the Today button and all that. You can open and close this window. If you hit the hand on a piece of paper up at the top left under the M for March, that will open and close that side window. So it gives you a little bit more screen real estate, but it's very helpful. And I'll show you why it's helpful. One, it comes with this mini calendar that I can just click on to figure out what day I want to look at. Two, it's got this big blank space down here. What's that big blank space do? Well, if you click on a work order, it's going to show you information about that work order here on the side. So that's a good use for the Smart Pane there. You can also, you got some buttons on here. You can preview the work order, print it out. So earlier I was saying if you want to print out like a copy of the schedule, this is probably the better way for you is to come in here and preview the work ticket and print it from there, or just directly print it from here. You've got some other options here. You've got an option for your edit job. If you want to click there and edit the job, you can also double click on the work order on the calendar, and that'll do the same thing. You've got an option here. So we'll go ahead and hover over there. That'll let you edit the customer. You can right click on the work order and there's a menu here that'll let you open up the customer. But again, those buttons are also available here on the side. So Smart Pane is very helpful. The other reason that it's helpful, you'll notice that these work orders that I'm looking at in the calendar, they have some information on them. But if I take one of these work orders, let's go ahead and let's take this one for Ronnie Davis at the top left. If I stretch this out, more information shows up. So now I can see his phone number. If I make it real tiny, only some of the information is, and I double clicked on it. Let me go back there. But only some of the information will show up when I do that, see? So you can change the text that's showing up on this work order, which is something I'll show you in settings here in a moment when we get to the settings portion of the webinar. But at a glance, click on this here, will show you the information. And if you want to see the full thing, you just double click on it to open it up. So there's a few more options over here on the Smart Pane that I want to discuss. One has to do with these green bars that are under each employee's name here on the calendar. If you click on the green bar, it'll show you what those numbers mean. Those numbers are right here. So it's giving me what percentage of the day is scheduled, how many jobs. A prospect job is going to be an estimate or quote or whatever your company's terminology is. Smart Service, the system itself calls it a prospect job. If you've got any phone calls and reminders, how many hours of the day are scheduled. This is looking at the white area of the calendar, and that's what it's using to determine those numbers. So it's got how many hours of the day are scheduled, and then how many hours remain in that white section. It will also show your work orders here. You got a split between work orders and estimates. As it says here, select jobs to print. This is really a good way to print out all three of these at once. You don't have to open them up individually and print them. You can select the green bar for a particular employee. You can choose to include a job summary if you would like, and then you can preview that or print it out. Really only matters if you're using the paper process, if you're not using iFleet, but it's a great way to get those work orders printed out for the day. There is, for anybody that's looking for it, an option as well in the Office tab that'll let you print out all the work orders for all employees for a day or for a week or however long you need. But this is a quick access from the dispatch board right there. An extra feature that comes with Smart Routes, which I won't get into too far today. I want to make sure that I talk about things that are available to all users and not just the folks that have purchased Smart Routes. You do have this mapping button. It is incredibly useful, and you might get smart routes because of the different features that come with it. This is one of many. What this button does here is it'll let me view a map view of the schedule. Right now, we just have kind of a vertical list of what's going on for everybody for the day. If I want to see these plotted out on a map and I want to see the directions that the technician is going to take, what I would do is I'd go ahead and click on the green bar, and then I'd click the mapping tool here, and it would open up that map view of the schedule and let me see, how the tech's going to get through all these stops. Again, that comes with our add-on Smart Routes, which is available for purchase. What its purpose is it's supposed to take all of your stops, help you find the best order to go through them. It will maximize efficiency for drive time, so you can get more stops in a given day without stressing out your techs. It will also help you squeeze a job into the calendar. We've got some open spots here on my calendar, and maybe I don't know where to put this job because I'm not familiar with the location. Smart Routes can figure that out for you. It can look at all the addresses of these and say, hey, that job should go here because you're going to be, 2 blocks away from the next guy. But that's pretty much it for the smart pane over there. Let's go ahead and get talking about the main calendar itself as well as the waiting list. So for the main calendar here, when you go to schedule a work order, what you're doing is you're coming in here, you're looking at the calendar, you can see that the guys are organized at the top and they're in alphabetical order. And we want to find whatever employee we want to do some work with. Let's say we do it for me on the far right. And then I left click and drag to highlight that date, time, and technician. I then right click to put something there. So again, I'm going to left click and drag to highlight the date, time, and technician that I want, and then right click to put something there. The job is going to occupy whatever time I pick out here. So I can come in here, I've got a number of different things I can make. We'll start off with a job. A job is a work order, something you're getting paid to do, something that will become an invoice, as opposed to an estimate, which is basically a quote or an upsell, and then maybe it becomes a work order, which then becomes an invoice. So we'll do new job. It's going to ask me what customer I want to do this for. Very similar to what we see on the search screen, because it is the search screen. I can type in the name of a customer or a phone number or an address or whatever information I have that I can get from the person to identify them. I can also do an asterisk, which will be show all, and it'll show everybody in the list. And then I can go ahead and pick out what customer I want to service for this particular service. That will create a work order for you. My general advice is for most people to leave this name alone. This is a work order number that it's generating here. This is something you can change in settings, but each time you create a work order, it's going to generate a new work order number, a new ticket number. That doesn't account for recurring services. Recurring services, it'll always be the same work order. It's just on repeat, so it will always have the same number. A different invoice number each time, sure, but the ticket number stays the same because it's the same service request. So it generates with the customer's name, followed by a job number. Again, I will show you the settings in the settings window for that, but I don't advise changing it. The reason I don't advise changing it is you can't have 2 jobs in the system with the same name. So when you get in here, you want to be careful of that. Just let it do whatever we've told it to do in settings. Because if I name this repair or something like that, I'm going to cause myself a few problems. The first problem is that I can't have another repair for this customer because I've already used that name. If I let it generate a unique number every time, it's always a unique name. That is a QuickBooks thing that we have to follow. The other reason why I don't want to type in repair here, and you could type it in after, sure, but leave the number in at least. But you're doing double entry if you type something in here. Anything that you guys would type in here, the type of job it is, or what day it's supposed to be, or any of that stuff, you're creating double entry because I've got better fields for that information that will tie into our reporting section. I want to be able to report on all the repairs that I do, so it would be a bad move to put that in here when I already need to put it in another field that is highly visible by the technicians and on the schedule and in reports. So there's just a better option than changing this name. If you do have extra questions about that, again, feel free to put them in the questions that you guys can ask via the chat panel there. I know certain industries are different. People that are doing like long-term projects and stuff like that might change the name. But again, that's kind of a thing we'd advise on a case-by-case basis. My general recommendation, leave it alone with what you have it doing in settings. We can change what it does in settings, but we want the general staff to be leaving it alone. But I'll hit OK. And that will create a work order for me. So now it's generated a work order. Getting away from the schedule a little bit, but still staying on the topic of dispatching. This down here, the job type, and you won't have as many as I do, for sure. I have a ton of these because I have dealt with all different industries over the last 8 years. But you're going to have a list of things like service call or repair, stuff like that. That is where I want you to put what kind of call it is. So I'm going to go ahead and put in service call here. We'll put in a service call. They have no heat or something like that. So our HVAC company got a service call for a customer that has no heating right now. I go ahead and put something like that in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and save and close this for a moment so we can go back to our dispatch board. Because what I want to show you here is, see where it says no heat on there? So you can customize the labels of what's showing up on here. Right now I have it as the customer's, I'm going to move my mouse so you can see it there. The customer, or the work order name, followed by the job type. So that's why it says service call up there. That is a customization I have made to my smart service that I will show you how to do. Then I've got the address, then I got the customer's actual name, and then their phone number, and then the job description. So no heat. I should probably put the job type and job description next to each other. But then I've got the sales rep's initials there. So you want to put that stuff in the job type in the description and not the name. Again, the reason being, when I have, let me go back into this work order. When I have something like the job type in its own separate box, I can now run a report on just this box. It's very difficult to run a report on something you're going to be typing in every single time. I will tell you what, with my fat fingers, I'm going to hit something wrong on the keyboard if I try to write in the name, and I'm going to put a wrong letter in service, or I'm going to misspell service, or I'm going to write SVC, and maybe Jack writes out the word service. That's making different things to report on. And now you got to remember, oh yeah, so-and-so writes out SVC call. The other person writes out service call. You don't want to have to make those kind of reports and remember that stuff. It's better to create a list of things that you click into that we all choose to use. So having something like that makes it nice and easy. The description, however, write whatever you want in there. It gives you a list. You don't have to use the list there. If it's convenient, maybe you have it in there. But I could say, hey, no heat and filter change. Oh, looks like I've done that one too. But you can write in something like that. The description can be whatever you want. Another good reason why these are so helpful. Again, we're talking about reporting and stuff. If I go up to this customer, I'm gonna use the customer button at the bottom here to open that up. And inside of our customer, if I look at all the services I've got going for them, see how much easier it is to see that job type and job description here. Job type, job description, when it's scheduled, who it's scheduled to. Having everything in its own field nice and neat here is going to make looking at a list of jobs easier on the schedule, looking at a list of jobs and customers easier, looking at them in iFleet because they can see the job type and description, and they can search by the job type as well in iFleet. And running reports, you'll have the option to see that a little bit better. So it's a good idea to put that stuff there instead. But all right, back to the scheduler. And again, folks, if you have questions, please write them into the chat panel on the side here. In a moment, I'm going to finish the basic tutorial of what the buttons do on the schedule. I'll want to get into some settings and stuff like that, but we can do the settings at any time during the webinar. If you guys have questions about how to schedule a certain kind of service, that's something I want to get to today as well. So I'll keep going here, and then we'll make it to that section. But by all means, throw in a question whenever you have one. Okay, so we've got this section here. So let's go ahead and head back over to the scheduler. Oh, and I am getting some questions in here. Let's see. Oh, somebody has noticed the flag icon on this guy down here. So let's talk about that real quick, because I've got some different symbols on these different work orders. So these symbols that you're seeing at the bottom right, I've got the flag, I've got a phone on this one. So flag is here, phone is here, and then to the right of that one, I've got a little padlock there. So what do all of those mean? Well, the flag symbol is going to be an estimate. That's how we note that something is an estimate, because it's hard to tell an estimate from a work order on the schedule. They're both scheduled appointments. They both occupy a date, time, and technician. If it is an estimate, it will have that red flag on there by default. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. The system will just do that for you. The phone symbol. That means I want to call the customer ahead of time. Either an office user can do this or iFleet can do this. If you put the phone symbol on here, iFleet will be instructed to call that customer. I can add that by simply right-clicking, and we will go through this menu in a minute, but you see the call ahead button. Also, when you're on a work order, so if I open up this work order, right here on the side under the job as active box is a call ahead box here. So you can check that. That'll also put the phone symbol on there. The confirm box to the right of that, that's another one of the symbols you asked about. The confirm checkbox is going to put the little padlock we see over here on this appointment on the right, the kind of olive one. That means that I cannot move this job. Generally, we have called the customer, we've confirmed the appointment. The one with the phone, I can move him around because he's not confirmed yet. The one with the padlock, I can't move him. Basically, we've talked to the customer, we've told the customer, hey, we are going to be there within this window. I want to make sure that we don't reschedule that now that we've already kind of promised the customer that time. If that does change, we could give them a call and we could unconfirm the job by unchecking the box or by double clicking the job and unchecking the confirm box. There is another symbol that can appear here on the schedule. We'll go ahead and do it with our appointment up here that we just made. So if I go into a work order and I add a helper onto my job, so we'll go ahead and add Josh, and I hit save. You see it puts that appointment on the calendar, but now this one has a little chain link on it. That chain link tells me that this is an additional employee. And what that does is if I move this main copy of the job, it's going to move it for the helpers as well. So these guys are chained together. I am the main tech in this case because I do not have the chain link. Your helpers will have the little chain link to show that they are the helpers on the job. Clicking on this will still open up the regular copy of the job. So you don't have to find like the right copy to open it up. It'll just open up the right one. But that happened again because I am the main tech and Josh is the helper tech. All right, good question about the symbols there. Let me know if you guys have other questions here and I'll kind of get them as we go. And actually there was one that came in while I was doing those. Can I view two different departments at the same time? So you can't view two different departments at the same time. You do select up here which one you want to look at. But like I said, if you need to, you can do all and then select the people that you want. So if I do everybody, so you get quite a long calendar here with everybody on it. But I'll tell you what, you want to be careful with these departments here. When you go to set up a profile, so let's say I go into, we're going to leave the scheduler for a little bit. Let's go into settings. And in settings, I'm going to go to employees. And on employees, we're going to go ahead and open up Josh. When you set up Josh and you give him a department here, and you can just type in a new one if you need a new one. You just write it in. There's no add new or anything special. When you do this, you don't want to fragment these guys too much. I see some people that have, regular techs, the helpers, the overnight techs that might take after hours calls. They separate the office into, dispatcher, manager, project manager, all that stuff. You're kind of making extra work for yourself. The way that I think about it is you guys know who everybody is in your company. You know what they are doing. The system doesn't really need to know too much about that. If I know that Josh is a technician and I know that Josh excels at a certain task, great. I can just go ahead and put him in the technician department. That way I can see him with the group. Now I could make, install technician as a group. Maybe Josh just handles installs. But just keep in mind that it's an extra click to go from technician to install technician or technician to sales. So people can only be in one department at a time. You don't want to fragment it too much. But if you do have guys that only do install and guys that only do service, and you don't want to mix them up, great. Just know that you can click between departments. It's an extra click, but sometimes it's warranted. Just don't make it too fragmented to where you got 20 departments in here and you've only got 25 guys. We don't want to have a department of just one person, because then it's an extra click to always get to that person, which is no fun. So good question there about viewing two departments. Like I said, you can do either option, either condense your departments down or do the little funnel symbol here for the filter. That'll be a good one as well. Okay, before we get too far with more questions, I want to go ahead and talk about the text that's showing up on these different appointments, as well as the color coding that I'm using for these different appointments. So remember, you can always click on these and you can always see everything in the smart pane, or double click on it to open it up. What I want here is if you're not clicked on anything, what you need to know at a glance about these work orders is what I'm looking for. So to make changes to that, or like these are, let's see, these are in London, it looks like is the city that these are in. If I want to change the color for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to close calendar. So I'm going to use close button at the top right. Oh, by the way, this close button is the same as this little close button up here. These are the same button. So doesn't have to be one or the other. Don't hit the big one because I'll close smart service, but the other two are fine. But what I'll do is I'll go into settings to make these changes to the coloring or to the text. And in settings, I'm going to go over to the scheduler. Now I get some options in here for what I want to set up. What we're looking at here is going to be set up scheduler colors. Let's take a look there first. Let's change the color of that city. If I click into set up scheduler colors, it's going to give me my breakdown here. By the way, you don't need to set this up the first time. Smart Service will automatically assign colors to each city as you add cities into the system. But it's a computer. It's going to pick boring colors. It's just going to pick like the next shade of something on the color palette. So you might add more vibrant colors like I did. Areas that are right next to each other, like Columbus and Delaware. Delaware is right north of Columbus. I'll probably make those guys like the same color or a similar color, so I know, oh, let's keep the guy in this area. I see that a lot with zip codes as well. People will make neighboring zip codes. They're a cluster, basically the same color, maybe different shades of that color, but the same color. And then I know, okay, we're going to be in this general service territory. I probably want to put this next to another blue job because it's another Delaware job. So you can do stuff like that. But we're in color by city. You can customize any of the color codings that you want. And then what I would do is I would click in our drop down and I would choose another city. We'll do Lockbourne here real quick, and then we'll change the color for London. But let's do Lockbourne, and over here I can pick out a color. You can click on one of these boring colors. I'm going to call them boring colors. I'm going to be fun and click on more colors here. It gives me more, and then if you want to get real crazy, there's a whole bunch of colors over here you can pick from. So I can make this kind of a, let's go with that. I like that. So when I hit save or OK here, it's going to go ahead and add that in. When you're doing these from here and you are selecting your colors, make sure that you pick out colors that are going to be visible. So I made that one white here for a minute so we can see that. If I go in and make it a darker color, it gets kind of hard to read, right? It's always black text. So make sure that you guys make it a lighter color from that little color window. Again, something like that makes it pretty easy to see, but it'll always be black text there. Sometimes you will have multiple copies of a city in here. This basically pulls from the drop down of cities that you have entered so far. So all of these things that I'm seeing in here are in here because I have them on a particular customer somewhere. There are 88 counties in Ohio. We do not have 88 entries in here because I haven't worked in all 88 counties. So you're only going to see the options that you have on a customer somewhere that you have an address for when you're doing the color coding. With that being said, you'll see sometimes like Brooklyn, and then maybe someone forgot the O or one of the O's for Brooklyn. You got Brooklyn. You'll want to go find those customers, and I'll show you how to do that. But you want to find those customers and fix the city. Otherwise, you got to change both Brooklyn and Brooklyn to the same color. And we just shouldn't have that data entry like that, right? We want to have everything spelled right, and then we only set the color for one thing. We don't have to worry about every permutation and misspelling. But if you do see multiple things in here, one that's in caps and one that's not, that's why it's been entered on someone, and you can go fix it. To fix those kind of things, you would go into search, bring up your whole customer list, and then over on the right, you can hit filter. And you can actually filter your customers by billing city, for example. And it'll give you a breakdown of who's in what city. So if I misspelled something, I can go there and I can figure out who it was, and I can make that change. I just open them up, change their city, and then if it's not a city in the program anymore, it won't be an option anymore in the dropdown. So okay, that is scheduler colors for the most part. I'm going to talk about the color by category because that one's a little bit harder. That's more of an up to you kind of thing. So we'll talk about that one here in a moment. But that's how we change colors for cities, zip codes, and stuff like that. Again, we do have some fantastic routing webinars that cover different strategies for this. The USPS will provide you with a map of how they color code zip codes. Again, they kind of cluster the same colors next to each other, which makes it much easier for you to see where you're going or have a general idea that they're going to be within, this 30-mile radius or whatever. So that's a good idea there. What else I want to talk about is these fields here. These fields are the stuff that is showing up. I'm going to open the scheduler back up here for a moment. The text that's showing up in all these work orders. If you want to change what that text shows, you change that here with these fields. So I'm going to change mine around here a little bit. I'm going to put the job description right next to job type, and then I'm just going to shift everything down. So we'll do our service address. You want to pick the right line. There are 4 lines. I'm going to do 2 because that's where my addresses are. Yours might be on line 1 or line 3. You want to look at your customers and see where things are supposed to be. But I can come down here and I can just shift everything down. I'll put the contact name down here. When I've made this change, if I go back to the scheduler now, now the information is showing up differently on these. So if you look at our blue one over here on the right-hand side, you can see the text has changed there. So a note on anything that you guys touch in settings. Everything that's in settings changes it for the whole company. Some of you may not have access to settings for that reason. If I change what color the city of Columbus is, anybody that looks at color by city is going to see that color. So you want to be careful when you make changes in here. You can also set the times that are shown in the calendar from here. So this is the view that I have. You can schedule anywhere within a 24-hour period, or you can take a call after hours through iFleet. It will show up basically outside of the schedule. So it should still show up in here, but there'll be like an extra little space up here with no time assigned for, a work order you did at like 3 a.m. or something like that. So you will see it when you have those things. But you want to be careful what you guys choose in here and make sure that's good for the whole team. Okay. So the next thing I want to run into here is going to be, let's right click and let's talk about this little window here. You can right click on any work order and get this one. If you right click on a blank spot, you get a different list of things. Right click on here. You got a print work order, preview. We've already covered those. Those are the same as what's on the SmartPane. Open job, same as double click. Open customer though, saves you time. Otherwise, I have to double click on the job and then hit the customer button at the bottom. So that saves you time. View time details will show you what the employees are doing on a work order. So if I go to Jack's work order and I do view time details, I can see Jack's times. I can edit these from here. I can do this in post work orders as well, so you don't have to. But the times that the employees put in, you can see those from that right click menu. Add signature. This is an option to sign with the mouse. If we are one of the customers that has a storefront or something like that, and you want the customer to sign, and you don't have like a tablet or something for them to write on, you can take it that way. It's going to be better on a tablet. If you've ever tried to sign with your mouse, it's kind of difficult. Send to Outlook is the same as the big Outlook button up here at the top, but it's going to send this one. You've got mapping options, so that'll show you how to get to the customer's site. Your call ahead, you're confirmed, and then one we haven't gotten to yet, which is the waiting list. So the waiting list shows at the bottom of the screen down here. These are any work orders that are waiting to be scheduled. I can see the different ones I have on here. I can see work orders versus estimates. They have their own waiting list sections. Now my waiting list is kind of small. If I hit the little hamburger at the left of the waiting list there, I can drag this up and down to make it bigger or smaller. If I want to open and close it, I can click where it says view waiting list. That'll open and close the waiting list. On your waiting list, you've got different columns, which all contain information that you would use to schedule this. Mostly this instruction section here kind of tells me what we need to do. If you want to change these columns, you can hit the columns button on the right. You can reorganize. So if I don't want one of these in here, like I don't want address 4, it's too many, I get rid of it. If I want something else in here, let's go ahead and include customer's PO number. I can go ahead and put that on there. I can move these in the list. Maybe I want that next to the other PO field. When I hit save, it reorganizes that list. This happens only for you, so everybody can have their own preferences for how they want their waiting list to look. To take something off the waiting list, you would click and drag to highlight a date, time, and technician. Instead of right-clicking and doing a new job, right-click on that job on the waiting list. It can be in any of the row or any part of that row for the job, and you can hit move from waiting list to selected time. And that's going to go ahead and schedule the job for there. Jobs that are on the calendar, you can right-click them, move them to the waiting list, which will confirm that you want to take them off the schedule, and it will put them on the waiting list. Another field that gets missed here is added to waiting list. This tells me how long something's been waiting. So I've got a couple calls that I put on today, but I've got this guy. I should probably see what's going on with that guy. He's been waiting for a very long time, it looks like. But maybe I go in there and, get rid of that job if we're not using it anymore, or I give that customer a call, see what's going on. Hopefully you're not as late as I am there. But that is the waiting list. When you guys are taking a call, so I'm going to open up one of these. Let's say you're building that work order and you want to put something on the waiting list. In your scheduling section, there's a button for this job is on the waiting list, which again will confirm you want to take it off the calendar. And then you can go ahead and write in a reason for why you're waiting. We'll just say reason so we can see this in a moment. So we'll write something in there. And then when I hit save and close, that's going to show down there in the waiting list here. And you can see our instructions, the column that says reason. That's how you tell people, hey, this is what's going on with that work order. And then we can kind of make a determination from there what we want to do. You can also click on the customer name here to open up the customer, or the job name here to open up the job. Maybe we're waiting on parts to come in, like we are for some of these that I have in here. And I get a box with parts. I come in, I look at the internal PO, I see PO number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever I had for the box. I can click on the job, receive those parts, open it up, move it to the calendar. Okay, that'll do it for the waiting list there. I'm going to move over to a few extra permissions for the scheduler itself. There are permissions for this, not too many, because we know that everybody using Smart Service is generally going to have a hand in scheduling and dispatching, so we don't limit it too much, but I want to show you some of the options that are available to you. Let's go back to our employee profiles and settings for a moment, and let's go to Josh Nickel. And inside of his permissions window, I've got a ton of permissions, but I've got a few that have to do with the scheduler itself. So one of them is allow scheduler viewing. That means that Josh can open up the schedule and look at it. He can't do anything to it, but he can look at it. I've got limit user to scheduler. That means he can only look at his own schedule. So when he opens up the schedule board, it'll be fixed to route view and fixed to him only. You don't want to give that out to any of your dispatchers, because then they'll only see their own schedule. They won't be able to actually do anything. So that is for like a technician that might be in the office, but we don't want them to touch anything for anybody else. We can use that option there. Allow scheduler changes. If I check this, now Josh can go in and actually schedule an appointment or make an edit on the calendar. So those are good things to have there. One that does have to do with the scheduler in a way is this guy here, this display phone call and reminder notifications. If Josh is a dispatcher and you put a call to Josh, he needs to call a customer and talk to him about something, maybe plan their installation or give them a courtesy call before we get out there and say, hey, put your pet away, make sure we have a clear, line of our clear path over to the furnace or whatever we're working on. And you have this on when you guys go to scheduler and you schedule him a phone call. So let's go ahead and book a phone call here. And I would go through and I would say, okay, what customer it's going to be, Lisa. And then I could go ahead and write in, call to schedule installation. And you could attach this to the job too. But when I put this on here, and it makes that phone call record, which you see has a little phone symbol next to it. Now, if Josh isn't looking at the calendar, he'll actually get a pop-up on his computer. As long as Smart Service is open, he'll get a pop-up at the time to make the call. But that kind of helps out. If you're dispatching, you're probably not looking at your own stuff. You're looking at everybody else's, and you want to be reminded, hey, it's time to call somebody. That's a good option there. All right, guys. Again, if you have any other questions, go ahead and toss them in there, and we'll go ahead and take a look. You did send in one a little bit ago for, can I block off a tech when they're out sick? Yeah, you can. There are a couple different things you might do that are non-job related. Let's say that in tomorrow, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to go ahead and, the dispatcher would go ahead and click and drag on my schedule, right click that, and then I would do a reminder. And we could put in, he's got a day off. And what that will do is it'll block off that whole day. Reminders have a little bell icon, as you can see there. Now, I could still schedule something in here, but it should be pretty obvious that the guy is not there. Or maybe he's taking a dentist appointment. You're going to schedule, part of the morning off or something like that. You guys can use the reminders to do that. If it is a company meeting or something that is a recurring item, you cannot make phone calls. Well, you can make phone calls recurring in a way, but you can't make reminders recurring. If it's something like a morning meeting, like here at Smart Service on Tuesdays, we have early morning meetings where we come in a little early. You would probably create a work order. I'd create a work order for my own company, in this case, Smart Service, and I would schedule that work order with a recurrence pattern for every week on Tuesday or something like that. But if I'm just taking a quick vacation, I could easily throw a few reminders for the days that I'm off onto the calendar. Same with holidays. If there's a holiday coming up and you want to schedule that, you could go ahead and throw that on everybody's calendar as well. But let me take a look to see if there's any questions we haven't gotten to yet. Looks like we are good to go there. So I want to spend the rest of the time talking about Google Calendar integration. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in. Google Calendar integration is going to let you send anything that you guys put on the schedule up to Google Calendar. The reason being, this schedule that I have, let's look at something that has schedule on it. The schedule that I have, I can see this from here, but I'm sitting in front of my computer right now. So in my case, I work from home. I'm at home. I'm looking at my computer. What if I want to run to the store? Or what if I'm the one doing one of these work orders? I want to be out and about at somebody else's house, doing work. Well, how do I see the schedule from there if I want to know if I can come back tomorrow, if we have the availability to do that? Well, that's where Google Calendar comes in. Every time that you schedule something here on the scheduler, I can have it so that Google Calendar automatically mirrors that appointment on Google Calendar itself. I can check that from my phone. I can check that from my tablet. I could put that on a big screen in the back of the office so that when the guys come to get their parts or get their trucks, they could see a big display of what everybody's got going on that week. When you use Google Calendar, you get to limit who can see what. You can set the number of days that show up in Google Calendar. So maybe if you're, kind of flying by the seat of your pants sometimes, and we can only really guarantee the schedule a few days out, I can only send a few days to Google Calendar. If I want to send a full 60 days out to Google Calendar, I can do up to 60 days in there, which gives me plenty of time to kind of look and see what's down the road. Maybe you do that to plan my vacation or something like that in a few weeks. Also, if you reschedule the job in Smart Service, it will reschedule it in Google Calendar. If you cancel the job in Smart Service, it will take it off Google Calendar. You can pick and choose who can see it. So in my case, I've got me and Jack working here in the Smart Service. Maybe I want Jack to be able to see everybody's Google Calendar, his, mine, Josh's, Maybe I only want Nori to see only his calendar. I don't want him to see what Jack has going on. I can pick and choose that when I set up Google Calendar, which ones Nori can see and which ones Josh can see. So you have plenty of options there for setting that up. Now, a common question that comes up there is, can I make edits through Google Calendar? No, you cannot schedule through Google Calendar. So if you create an appointment in Google, it will not come back here to Smart Service. But the things that you do here in Smart Service will go out to Google Calendar. If you are looking to schedule from the field or something like that, there are options available in iFleet. It's not a full schedule from the field as in this calendar, but iFleet technicians can be given the permission to create their own work orders and change the date, time, and tech on them. They cannot see the schedule, so they're kind of blind scheduling. That option is really meant for them to schedule it to themselves. It will show up back in the office for approval as well, so you can kind of manage that because, again, your guys working in the field are probably great at their jobs. They might not be great at the office job, so the office can kind of keep an eye on that and help them out where they need. But you do have that option there. The other option that you can do, there are plenty of free remote desktop softwares. If you ever talk to our help desk, we remotely connect to your computer. We're in Ohio, you are wherever you are. There are plenty of free and paid options that let you do that. So if I'm out and about, for example, in my personal life, I use Chrome Remote Desktop. Again, not an ad for Chrome Remote Desktop. This is what I use. But I can remotely connect to my computer through my phone. So if I'm thinking, oh, geez, I made that shopping list, but I left it on my computer or something like that, I can just connect through my phone and I can look at it. And I can create documents that way, and I can do anything that I can on a computer through that. The only downside to doing it through a software like that on your phone, it's a little bit easier on a tablet through a phone. Remember, you only got the little texting keyboard to work with, and you got to kind of move your finger around for the mouse. So if you need to do it every so often, great, there's remote options available to you. Way better on a tablet or a laptop or something like that to connect to the office computer. If you need full remote access at all times, there are plenty of hosting services that'll put a server in the cloud for you that you can access from literally anywhere. All right, that's pretty much everything that I had for today. I wanted to see if there were any other questions you guys had. Oh, somebody did ask another scheduler-related question. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that. When you guys are creating an appointment through the search screen, so let's go in here and let's create a job for Tim here. And I'll show you where their question is. Their question has to do with some of the options over here in scheduling. What are these little buttons here? They're asking what this little stick thing is. It's a magic wand. I know it's not too high res, but that's what it's supposed to be. If you click here, this lets you actually view the schedule. You can click in here and kind of blindly schedule, but I can't see what's on the calendar without like going back to the calendar, going back in here. You can actually click this button here, and that will open up the scheduler itself. So there's the current date. Then I can say, hey, let's put this here. And I don't want to right click in here and make another thing because I already got a thing going. I'll just click and drag highlighted date, time, and technician, and then hit save. And it'll book the appointment for what I've got up there. And good catch there. Somebody did ask about the color by category. I did say I would talk about that, so I'll go ahead and run through that here. These color by categories, they're up to you. We give you some different colors. You see how mine have some labels on them, like I've got a preventive maintenance one. I've got a pets on location color, so I can click that there. You guys get to decide what these colors mean to you. In Smart Service, what we're going to do, if I go back to settings for the scheduler and set up scheduler colors, when you do the color by categories, we're just going to give you colors. And you can click on these colors like light green, and I can write in, let's say light green is, I want to collect a deposit, and then I'll hit update. So I've got a light green for collect deposit, a darker green for collect payment. When you guys select these, you've basically given a meaning to the color light green. iFleet will be able to see these color by categories. It'll be a green flag on their work order out on the tablet. So when I go in here to schedule one of these guys and I want to tell them something, you can come in here and you can pick out your collected deposit color, and it'll give them that light green flag. You can do that. That's a good visual cue. One thing that I really like now that we have it, which is a better option in my opinion, is going to be up here at the alerts. When you're doing a work order, there is an iFleet alert, and you can make a little pop-up message that'll show up inside of the job for them. That's usually a better visual cue in case they don't know what the flag color means. Or again, I have green and light green. It's kind of hard to tell those apart looking at the tablet. I can just write in a message here. And they will get that message. And I can still set a color on it. If I need to set a color on it. We'll do kind of this orange here for this one. So I can always do that, and then iFleet would get that color alert and actually some text with it instead of just the color flag there. But all right, everybody, so that takes us up to 3 p.m. here. I'll go ahead and let you go for the day. I wanted to bring up a few other resources for you here before we cap it off. So the first thing is smartservice.com/webinar. That'll be your online manual for Smart Service. And I'm mixed up my links. That'll be where the webinars are stored for Smart Service, where you'll find this video usually about 24 hours from now on that website. So if you want to share this with somebody else or come back and review it later, head over to smartservice.com/webinar. You've got smartservice.com/updates as well. That's where when we make a new version of Smart Service, we're going to be telling you what's in that new version. We usually have a short video and article over there just to kind of show you how to use those features. You can always call us and get training on them or reach out to the help desk. But if you want a quick summary of how things work or what the new things are, how things changed, that's a great place to start. It'll get you armed with the tools that you need to ask us questions in depth. Lastly is smartservice.com/knowledge base. That is your online manual for Smart Service. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can go there. You can submit a support request to our team, as well as view articles on things like the scheduler. All the information that we've covered here today is on the scheduler tab of the knowledge base, so you can take a look at that if you prefer a written copy. I'm going to be putting this video on there as well, so you should have kind of an all-in-one stop shop for that stuff. Lastly, personalized training. We do recommend that you reach out to us. Usually 2 hours every 2 years is good to go for training. The reason being, if you bought the software, let's say in 2017, it's virtually a different software now from what you bought. There's a ton more options and features. There might be a better way to do something that was a little tricky for us in 2017, but over time we've developed more features for that specific type of process. It's good to get in training every so often. Make sure that you guys are following our recommended process and the most efficient options that we have available to you in the modern day. Definitely give us a call at 888-518-0818. Once again, that is 888-518-0818, and you can sign up for training today. But that's everything I had for you guys. I do appreciate you coming. And again, I'll get this webinar uploaded for you here shortly. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or if you would like to get an update of Smart Service. We are now on version 116.3. Nothing major has changed from 116, but if you're running behind and you're in like version 112 or something, get that update, especially if you didn't see some of the features that we're talking about in the webinar today. But yeah, reach out to us. We are here for you when you need us, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.